Welcome back to Houston Newsmakers. My guest this morning, Senator John Cornyn. We've been talking about a number of issues important to him and to Texans and their challenge of getting any of it done in the divided climate in Washington. You're pretty highly ranked as far as the Republican senators in Congress, and I wonder what your leadership role is in terms of how you set the tone for what happens in Congress. What kind of tone, what kind of responsibility do you take on yourself for helping to set the tone?
Well, the longer I've been in Congress and the Senate, the more I value just being effective and getting things done. There's plenty of people who are willing to fight the fight out on cable TV every night and to express the opposing views, and I'm happy to do that when the occasion arises. But one of the things I'm most proud of is for the last 3 years, my office, my Senate office, and I've passed more legislation, more bipartisan legislation than any other member of the Senate. That's not a mistake. It's because I reach out to people like Kirsten Sinema from Arizona, even Mark Warner from Virginia on semiconductors, on supply chains, Kirsten on the border, working with Henry Cuellar, Blue Dog Democrat from Laredo, and Tony Gonzalez from the largest border district in the country. So I've really enjoyed that the most. I think that's what my constituents, all 29 million of them, generally want, is for us to try to find common ground and try to work together to produce results. So that's where I spend most of my time and effort.
You know, most recently, the issue has been trying to find something that's normal. And one of the normal things that happen in Congress, this was a standoff about raising the debt limit. That's something that happens regularly. Both parties have done this for many years. And then when it came time to raise the limit to pay for the debts now of the previous administration, there's pushback, and it's clear it's partisan, because not one Republican representative voted for it. No senators voted for it either. So now it gets kicked down the road until December. Why all the partisan posturing on this?
You know, one of my biggest disappointments in my time in the Senate is our inability to deal responsibly with the mounting national debt. It's now 107% of our gross domestic product. A lot of that, of course, was bipartisan spending we had to do during the midst of the COVID-19 virus. But there needs to be some kind of accountability, because it's immoral, in my view, to pass these financial obligations, this debt, down to future generations and not to deal with it in the here and now. And so when our Democratic colleagues said that in a non-emergency situation they now wanted to spend $3.5 trillion more money, we said, well, you're going to have to raise the debt ceiling by yourself. You have the votes. And this is going to be a matter of transparency, because you're going to have to tell the American people how much more you want to put on their credit card.
But isn't that confusing? Isn't that confusing because the debt limit is dealing with previous expenditures and not future expenditures?
It is dealing with future expenditures. There's confusion about that, admittedly. But if they want to spend more money in the next coming months, then they need to raise the debt limit. We did it on a temporary basis to give them the time to do that. But to me, this is about making the people who are increasing the debt responsible and accountable to the voters in 2022. That's why I thought under these unusual circumstances, it was appropriate to say, if you're going to be reckless about this, you're going to have to bear this alone, and you're going to have to be held accountable for it.
So that it puts the country now until December, I guess you've given them to do this. Do you expect that something's going to get done, or we're going to have a debt crisis that's bigger than what anybody's seen before?
Well, nobody believes that that would be a good idea, and that's why in the past you've seen bipartisan efforts to raise the debt ceiling, but usually accompanied by some structural reforms to deal with the underlying debt. And here, our Democratic colleagues have no interest, or have shown no interest in dealing with the debt, and so that's why, under these unusual circumstances, they have to do it alone. They have the votes to do it, and there needs to be the accountability that goes along with it.
Let me change the subject. A pretty good hard right turn here. Let's talk about what's been going on in Congress right now. The January 6th attack is front and center on a lot of different things. Not the commission, but the committee that's dealing with that. Do you think the January 6th attack on the Capitol would have happened without the influence of Donald Trump claiming election fraud? A claim that's really continued to have zero evidence. And why is it not in the best interest of the American people for a commission to have really getting to the bottom of this?
Well, I believe that freedom of speech is important, and I believe that President Trump was within his rights to express himself, even if you disagree with what he said. But what happened on January the 6th, and I was there in the Senate chamber, was wrong. And it demonstrates what happens when you get a group of people together, a large mob, and really it's the lowest common denominator characterizes the whole effort. But now there's been appropriate investigations by the FBI and the Department of Justice, a number of convictions for trespassing and other more serious crimes, and I think that's the way that we deter this in the future. But I think we know what happened, and I think a lot of this is designed to create this narrative involving President Trump in 2022 and 2024. Our Democratic friends want to run against Donald Trump in 2022 when he's not on the ballot by keeping this issue alive.
And the former president, is keeping it alive as well. I mean, he's on the stump. He's making speeches about that. So it's not just the Democrats. The former president you supported is also doing the same thing. I want to bring this up as well. Liz Cheney, it'd be hard to find somebody more conservative in Congress than Liz Cheney. I mean, her record shows that. But she was stripped of leadership because she's not aboard the Trump train, so to speak. And she had this to say about the ongoing challenge created by those who enable him or his claims. She said in her tweet, millions of Americans have been sold a fraud that the election was stolen. Republicans have a duty to tell the American people that this is not true. Perpetuating the big lie is an attack on the core of our constitutional republic. Is she right?
Well, I believe Joe Biden won the election, and President Trump had about 60 different lawsuits that were unsuccessful in changing the outcome. And the Constitution says the new president should be sworn in on January the 20th, and Joe Biden was. So there's no question in my mind about that. I do think that some of the irregularities that we've seen needed to be addressed, and I'm glad to see states like Texas and Georgia and others try to restore public confidence in our election systems. That's the single most important thing that determines people's confidence and willingness to show up and vote. But there's no question in my mind about the outcome of the last election. Are
we heading toward a constitutional issue crisis maybe if we don't get to the bottom of this? I mean, the Stop the Steal effort is still out there, even though there's no election that's been stolen.
Yeah, I think, the history of our country is that, there have been movements and ideas, even conspiracy theories about what exactly has happened. And unfortunately, our country is more divided, more polarized by some of the media and also social media, and that tends to propagate some disinformation and some conspiracy theories. So it's a challenging time, but I think it makes it even more important for people who want to be responsible, who do want to govern, people who do want to get things done, to step up and do exactly that. We've seen a lot of movements wax and wane over the time I've been in politics, and I think this is a passing phase, and this too will pass. Well,
I hope you're right about that. Thank you, Senator. Hey, more with Senator Cornyn after break. We'll talk most about the important goals for him personally and for Texans when Houston Newsmakers continue.